Procrastination is one of the things that we talk about and we say we shouldn't be doing that. But it's one thing to do it for a particular task or a few tasks that you need to do. Whole different ballgame when you get to your life. And too many people put off doing important tasks, important accomplishments they want in their life. And there's a way to get around that. Matter of fact, I got to share something with you. I discovered a book recently called Someday is Not a Day in the Week. And it is a book that is just packed full of practical ways that you can learn how to, first of all, identify and then overcome those challenges that are there. And I've got a treat for you, dear viewer. You get a chance to hear from the person who wrote this book. Her name is Sam Horn, and she's joining us now from her home there in beautiful Colorado. Sam, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Terry. I've really been looking forward to sharing some stories and some insights with your viewers.
Absolutely. Well, you did such a great job. I've read other books that you put out, and they are fabulous. On this one, you cranked it up a few more notches. I mean, it's in the wow, oh my goodness category with real practical things. So what I want to do first, before we even get into the book itself, give us kind of the big picture of what it is about and how you came up with the ideas for this book of Someday is Not a Day in the Week. And you give us 10 hacks to make the rest of your life the best of your life. Tell us a little bit about that.
Paulo Coelho said, one day we're going to wake up and there won't be any time left to do the things we've always wanted to do. And so many of us are busiest and we keep postponing what we really want to do because, we'll do that when we're not so tired or busy or when we have more time or when things aren't so crazy at work or when we retire. What if that someday never happens? Hopefully this book is the motivation to get crystal clear why we're here and to bring more of it into our life now, not later.
Yeah, I like that. And the way that you talk about it, like the subtitle of the book here, the 10 hacks that you give, what I'd like to do is let me share my screen with you. You were kind enough to send me a paper version of it, or I should say a digital version of that. And so I've got that here. And I want to start by letting those that are watching look at what she talks about in the book. There are 10 hacks that you can use, starting here with evaluate, generate, abdicate. All of these, I think, done in classic style. They're really, really nice. Tell us a little bit about what these mean and what they are, Sam.
Dave Asprey, who founded Bulletproof Coffee, is a friend. And as you may know, Dave was a 300-pound computer hacker in Silicon Valley. And he thought, wait a minute, if I can hack computers, I can hack my health. Because it seemed like no matter how hard he worked out, no matter how well he tried to eat, he still couldn't lose weight. So he went on a search to come up with hacks for his health, came up with Bulletproof Coffee. And I thought, well, if he can hack health, I can hack happiness. So these are 10, as you said, very practical step-by-step ways that we can figure out exactly what it takes for us to lead a more meaningful and purposeful, happier life and how to set it in motion.
Yeah, and I think those are really important because when we look at those, you give us in the book some real action steps. And one of them I want to deal with here, and let me go back sharing my screen, is to show you the kind of things that are there. And for those of you listening to this, here's something that is really important. I want to come up here. We look at what's on page 33 here and looking at that. And as a matter of fact, even before that, let me go back here. As I was reading this, you can see I put some marks in here, different areas that are there that are really nice. You talk about this important thing called a sense of urgency. Now, we've found that's important. And I love these quotes you put in. The quotes by themselves are worth the price of the book. They're really great, where you have Judy Tenuta saying, my mother always told me I wouldn't amount to anything because I procrastinate. And I said, just wait. And I love that. It kind of sets the tone for it. Tell us why that sense of urgency is really important in getting the things done in life that you want to do.
It's great, Terry, because we're quoting Judy Tenuta, the comedian. And now let's quote John Kotter, who is a Harvard professor, one of the experts on change. He said, you know what the number one prerequisite is for change? A sense of urgency. Yet most of us don't have a sense of urgency. We wait, we procrastinate. So an SEE is a significant emotional event. And unfortunately, most of them are dramatic or traumatic. It's we lose our job or we get divorced or we have a health challenge. And that significant emotional event is what finally gets our attention, makes us realize we don't have an automatic tomorrow, and motivates us to set something in motion instead of procrastinating. You want one of my favorite stories about someone who did that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I was giving a workshop in Waikiki, and we were talking about this, and one woman said, Well, I would like to be more adventurous, but I let fears run my life. I said, all right, it's time to give yourself a sense of urgency. Number one, we're going to put a date on the calendar. I said, what is one way you could be more adventurous? She said, well, I'm here at a convention in Waikiki and I haven't even set foot in that water. I said, why? She said, I saw Jaws when I was a kid. Not a good idea. Okay. I said, when do you leave? She said, 2 days. Okay. It's got to be tomorrow. Now, set your alarm for 6 a.m. She said, why 6 a.m.? I said, because the sun rises over Diamond Head at 6:30. You're going to be at water's edge. I said, now you're going to be in bed. The alarm's going to go off. You're going to want to turn over, go back to sleep. Ask yourself this question. What will matter a year from now? Will it matter that I got an extra hour of sleep? Or will it matter that I have an experience that I will always remember? Now, one more way to give ourselves a sense of urgency is hack the fear by making the daunting doable. I said, instead of going into an ocean and you're afraid of sharks, you know about the natatorium. It's only 3 feet deep. It's where Duke Kahanamoku used to train for the Olympics. It's only got one opening in the seawall. The surf can't get in, and neither can the sharks. And then I said, send me a picture to hold yourself accountable. 2 days later, guess what I got? A text with a smiling Bev at water's edge, right about to go in the water, because instead of letting fears run her life, she gave her sense of urgency, put it on the calendar, and now she is more adventurous instead of letting fear.
I think that is really brilliant because it's giving an action step. You do something in a safe way. We're not going to say, hey, jump into shark-infested waters to try to overcome it. No, 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 no. What you want to do is something that is safe and do that in a measured way. I really like that. Another little tool that you gave that I really resonated with, and I'd like you to talk a little bit more about this, is you use the phrase, ink it when you think it. When you think of these ideas, we all have lots of good ideas, and oh my golly, I'll be sure and remember that one. Yeah, and guess what happens? I forget it. Tell us a little bit about that and what you mean by ink it when you think it.
No, Terry, this was the number one takeaway from 17 years of emceeing the Maui Writers Conference. We had, Dave Barry right there from Florida, and we had Frank McCourt, Angela's Ashes, and they all agreed on one thing: ink it when you think it. And the reason is because, as you say, we get an idea. We're entrepreneurs. We're in business. We have a new project or a way to scale this campaign or a way to launch this project or something. But we think it, and then we think, I'll take care of it later. It's gone later. So the whole idea is to either take Evernote with you wherever you go, take a notepad with you, and if something occurs to you, jot the thought when it's hot. Use it so you don't lose it, because now you are monetizing your mind by capturing thoughts are purest when they're original. From now on, do it in the moment, ink it when you think it.
I love that, Sam. That's something that I heard, that same concept from Earl Nightingale, the Dean of Personal Development, when he would say, when a thought comes, it's fleeting. What you've got to do is you've got to stab it. And what he meant by that is take a pen and stab it by writing it down. And so he would regularly carry a notepad with him and pens, which I find I still do today. But something that I found really helps me a lot, as a matter of fact, I'm going to share this right now, is I use my Note 8, just like we can use a phone. And what I can do is you can talk faster than you can write. And with the technology today, I can just talk these ideas into my notepad here that I would bring up, and then I can see it. And I find that way I'm not focused on, oh, gee, I got to write faster, or I'm typing it. Oh, I made a mistake. Hold it. No, if I could just learn how to type, now our brain is focused on the negatives of, oh, I can't type. But if instead I'm just doing a flow from my brain down here, how has that worked for you as you've tried these kind of techniques?
Terry, what you just said is so important, and I hope that people also are using Otter, OTTER.ai. And the reason is I work with a lot of people on their books, and many are busy executives, entrepreneurs. They feel they do not have time to write. You have time to think, though. You have time on airplanes. You have time on walks. And as you are just saying, when you walk out of a meeting and something just happened to you, you think, wow, I need to do a LinkedIn post about that, or wow, I need to use that in my presentation tomorrow. If you don't get out Otter or your system right here, you can talk it out right then. It has your voice. You're right in the flush of the moment, which is when your voice is most alive. It is instant voice recorder and instant transcript. So then you get back to the office and there's that story, there's that idea waiting for you to operationalize or to put in a book or in a post. And it is making the most of your mind because you're capturing thoughts in the moment when they are at their best. And it simplifies the process. You don't have to set aside time to write. You can do it right within your life.
Yes, it's wonderful. We see the technology that's there today. I love. Matter of fact, Sam, I'm going to share with you a little hack that I often use. And for those that are watching this, many of us love to read, and we read books. And I find when I'm reading a book, oh, I get an idea on something, and it might be something that's not necessarily in the book, but it's elsewhere. So what I do is, I'm using this. I do a lot of reading on my notepad here, or excuse me, on Kindle, on my Note 8. And then what I'll do is I also have running my notes over there, Samsung Notes that are available, so I can just with a keystroke jump over there and then talk into it. Say on page 345, the author said da 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 da, which reminds me I can do this and this and this, and that way I'm getting a real-time flow of information coming in. It seems to help a lot with that.
You know, Terry, I love what you're talking about because you are talking about how we can use tech to operationalize things today instead of someday. So it is what you're saying is that our mind is working all the time. But if we're on this project and something occurs to us, we immediately set it aside thinking we'll come back to it. Well, we won't come back to it. We have a mutual friend, DeWitt Jones, and DeWitt and I were on a Maui beach, and this was years ago, so he was using his notebook, but we'd walk 100 yards, he'd stop, he'd whip out his little notebook, he'd write something down. And then we'd walk another 100 yards, he'd whip out his notebook, write something down. I said, DeWitt, what are you doing? And he said, Sam, I used to get an idea, and I would think, well, I need to put that in my outside column or something like that, and then I would forget it. He said, I realize I make a living from my mind, and I am dissing the muse. She's giving me gold here, and I am not honoring it. So what you're talking about is using tech to honor these brilliant insights that pop into our mind, to capture them, and then to set them in motion, because ideas in our head help no one. It is only when we capture them and share them through a presentation, through a blog, through a social media post. Now those ideas are out of our head and out into the world, making a difference for other people. And it depends on what you're saying, which is to capture and share them in the moment instead of thinking we'll do it later when we're not so busy.
Oh, that is just brilliant. Sam, thank you for saying that, because it's true. I think for me, I don't know about everyone else, but I know for me, I'll think, oh, that's a great idea. I'll remember that one. And guess what? We don't. But by using the technology, we can make it happen. But there was another thing you mentioned in the book, too, that I really enjoyed. Let me go back and share my screen here with you. And I thought it's one thing to talk about what we want to capture, but it's also something that we want to say, you know, there's some things I want to get away from. I love when you have here on page 70, you said, a friend told me that why drive into a hurricane has become a go-to phrase in her family. When she or one of her kids is about to head into a stormy situation, they stop and ask themselves, am I driving into a hurricane? Why? And is there a better alternative? This, I think, was just priceless, golden information that you had there. Tell us a little bit more about what you mean by, am I driving into a hurricane?
This happened on the very first day of my year by the water, and part of the book, Someday is Not a Day in the Week, is based on my adventures and travels and insights from my year by the water. So I'm at a send-off party, and as we head out the door, one of my friends says, keep an eye out for that hurricane. It's like Scooby-Doo moment, hurricane? I hadn't been watching the news. Well, I was headed to Chesapeake Bay, and so is a hurricane. But see, I had told the person I was going to be there at 9 o'clock, so I'm driving. Terry, I can hardly keep my car on the road with the horizontal rain and wind. My windshield wipers can't keep up. But see, I keep driving because I had made a commitment, right? And we keep our commitments, right? And finally, this little thought bubble came up. Why drive into a hurricane? Well, because I've made a promise and I keep my promise. But I realized I was putting myself at risk. I texted my friend. I said, it's getting a little intense out here. Okay, if I come another time. She got back instantly and said, please take care of yourself. The home will be there when you're ready. And an hour later, I was fast asleep in a bed and breakfast. But my epiphany was, what other commitments am I keeping because I said I would? Because I grew up thinking that that's the right thing to do. And I believe that many of us are keeping toxic commitments because we have the old default thinking that you keep a commitment no matter what. And this chapter in the book is about please revisit those commitments. Maybe you can renegotiate them in a way that is a win for the other person and for you, instead of just continuing to drive into the stormy situation or toxic relationship out of some outdated notion that you made a promise and you keep it no matter what.
I really like that. And I think it was particularly poignant for me when you talked about certain people, maybe even relatives, that sometimes are very toxic and it becomes a negative situation. You're not required to do it. It's not one of those should, I'm going to use the air quotes here, that you should do that. Sometimes when we can say, no, actually, I should not do that. Thank you for putting that in the book. It's very, very helpful to me.
You know, Terry, one more comment, because maybe someone watching is thinking, are you thinking just abandon your responsibilities or your commitments? I'm not talking about just walking away from things. What I'm talking about is, there's an example in the book, is that there was a young woman and her husband, they had 2 kids, and every Thanksgiving they went to their parents' house. And, you know, they had one uncle who was always angry and often got drunk, and the kids, there was nothing for them to do and they couldn't get on the furniture, so they were on edge all the time, and it was expensive and traveling at Thanksgiving. Well, they read this book, and so they got in touch with the parents and they said, we want to spend time with you. How about if you come to our home over spring break, because that way we get to spend time together. You know, the kids have something to do, and it was a win for everybody. And it only happened because they had the courage to revisit that commitment and make it away from everyone, instead of just doing it out of duty that served no one.
I like that. And the way you phrase that, I think is particularly good. You revisit that commitment, and sometimes you might need to alter it. Like the example you gave in the book and just shared with us, that you wanted to see these people, they wanted to see these people, but under different circumstances that make it better. Think of creative ways that you can do that. And this is a book that you that are watching this will want to look into. It gives you some practical ideas on what to do and how to live your life, how to get around and get things done. And matter of fact, Sam, one of the things that you have done recently, in the closing part of the book you talk about it, is about relocating to greener pastures, which I thought was great. Let me share my screen again here and take a look at this. You talk about here in Life Hack 10, relocate to greener pastures, and how we need to do that. And I think that you have done that also here. You talk about moving there, getting away from where you were and finding out a place that is more ideal for your lifestyle. Even as we're talking right now, doing this recording, you are on a beautiful location. Tell us a little bit about what you've done and why it's important to relocate and to maybe have that change of scenery in our geography.
Terry, you are really bringing up one of the central ideas of the book. Is what I found is that many of us feel that happiness is selfish, and we are taking care of everybody else but ourselves. We're putting everyone else first but ourselves. And as Esther Hicks said, my happiness is on me, so you're off the hook. And throughout my travels, I would interview people and they would talk about what they really wanted to do. But first they had to be responsible. They had a family counting on them, and they thought it as an either or. And if there's any message the book gets across, is that happiness is not selfish. When we do something, even one thing a week, that puts the light on in our eyes, it sets the precedent for others, and it gives them permission to do the same. So I was driving along, and in one week I got 2 phone calls from my sons, and they're both having babies, and they asked if I would spend time with them. So I spent time in New York, and I spent time in Boulder. While I was here in Boulder, I discovered this lake. And Terry, something in me, this is where I wanted to be.
Yes.
It feels so right, Terry. It is the best of all worlds, because I get to consult with clients here. I get to walk around that lake in the morning. I get to write here. Everything about it called to me. And I'm asking people, what is calling to you right now? What feels so right? Everything about it gives you an opportunity to do what you're here to do in alignment with the people you care about. And if it is calling to you, Rene Ricard said, tomorrow is another day, but so is yesterday. So I took responsibility for planting myself here in Boulder, Colorado, and I answered that call. And as a result, everything in my life feels in alignment. I know I am not postponing something and will end up with regrets. And that's what this book is about, is that postponing will end up with regrets. And the answer is to do what calls us now, and we can do it in alignment with taking care of others and taking care of ourselves.
That is so beautiful. We really appreciate what you've done, and I congratulate you on achieving that era of your life right now for this chapter. You're in the right place for you, and I commend you for doing that as well. But we're not going to let you get away without telling us how people can get in touch with you. How can they find out more about the book? How can they get a copy of it? And how can they find out more about this way of impacting their life that you've made available to us?
Thank you, Terry. It's real easy. They can go to my website. It's intrigueagency.com, INTRIGUE, intrigueagency.com. And here's the good news. I really am a woman on a mission. I want to start a movement where people are taking responsibility for doing what matters to them now and not later, because now is the new later. So on that website, you'll find, here's the happiness box that you can print out and fill out and then discuss with a friend. Here's the happiness interview you can take out to dinner and you can interview each other about it. Here's a reader's guide and a facilitator's guide so you can host your own book club at work or in your neighborhood. Because my goal is that people don't just read the book. My goal is that they talk about it, is that they act on it. So a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, the quality of their life is better, and it's because they took responsibility for creating the quality of life they want now and not later.
Yes, it is. The time to do it is now. No time like now. I remember it was W. Clement Stone who would say, do it now, very famously. And for those of you watching it, this is a book that literally can change your life. We hear that a lot of times about different books, but this one has changed mine, helped me to realize what I need to do, what I need to not do, and how to do it in some very practical ways. This is one that is really worth it. A few coins and buy it, and then you're going to be able to enjoy it. Sam Horn, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And thanks for putting together this masterpiece that can change many lives.
You know, Terry, you're a walking, talking role model of this. Is that from the first time I met you, you are a pioneer in your industry. And you and I talked about how so many people then were intimidated by the internet or all these tech gadgets, and they would say, I'm not good at it. And they kept putting it off. And what you did is you brought to their attention is this is coming, folks. And the sooner you get better at this, the sooner you use this for good, the sooner you can continue to contribute at your potential. And that's part of what this book is about, is what you model, is to figure out what is important in life. And instead of thinking, well, I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to do it. No, how can we get good at it? How can we act on it? So that we're leading a legacy and living it to our potential instead of abdicating it and looking back with regrets because we didn't do what needed and we wanted to do at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for those kind words. And I see that technology is a way for us to make our lives better. And like anything, we have to use our brains with it. There's ways that you can harm yourself with it. There's ways that you can make it better. And so for those of you that are watching this, I want you to step back for a moment and think about this. Here's a book. It's like this gives you the roadmap of what to do and how to do it. Sometimes we'll say, well, I'll try something and it didn't work. How would you like to get someone brilliant like this, Sam? Matter of fact, Sam Horn herself, that can sit down and talk to you. I'll put talk in air quotes there, talk to you through the book, share ideas that really work, share it in a fun way that's easy to understand and easy to implement. This is something that can change your life, and it's worth getting out there and parting with a few coins, and you'll enjoy it. Hey, Sam, thanks again for joining us, and enjoy your day there as you look out over that beautiful lake.
Thanks so much, Terry. Best wishes to you, and I hope everyone has found this interesting and useful, and they're inspired to put something important to them in motion this week.
You bet. And for those of you watching this, think about what you've just seen. You've seen some examples. You're hearing about some things that are in a book that can really help you to correct some areas that you've wanted to change in your life. Here's how to do it in a good way. I'm Terry Brock. Thank you very much for joining us today.